Massachusetts may be known for its historic charm and peaceful towns, but beneath its quiet streets lies a darker truth. From lifeguards who vanish without a trace, to mutilated bodies buried in dunes, and twisted lies that fueled racial outrage, these are the stories that haunt the Bay State. Welcome to part 1 of Massachusetts Nightmares, a chilling dive into 5 of the most eerie and unsettling cases in the state's history. Stick around, because part 2 will uncover 5 more disturbing stories. So hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications, you won't want to miss what's coming next. Number 1. The Disappearance of Molly Bish, 2000. Molly Bish was a 16-year-old lifeguard at Comins Pond in Warren, Massachusetts. She vanished on June 27, 2000. Just one day earlier, Molly's mother had noticed a suspicious, mustached man sitting in a white sedan parked near the pond. On the morning of June 27, Molly's mother dropped her off for her lifeguard shift and drove away, only to find out later that Molly never returned. Her lifeguard station and belongings were found intact, but no one was on duty. This triggered an immediate and massive search, the largest missing person investigation in Massachusetts history. Timeline of events. On June 26, 2000, Molly's mother saw a man in a white sedan in the parking lot, described as suspicious. The next day, June 27, Molly disappeared while on duty. 3 years later, on June 9, 2003, a hunter discovered her blue swimsuit in the woods of nearby Palmer, Massachusetts. A search of the area led investigators to her skeletal remains, just 5 miles from her home. Police concluded she had been abducted and murdered. However, due to advanced decomposition, the exact cause of death could not be determined. Key facts. Molly's case remains unsolved. Witnesses reported seeing a white car near Comins Pond around the time she went missing. After her remains were found in 2003, police officially treated the case as a homicide. By all accounts, Molly was beloved in her community, responsible, well-liked, and trustworthy, making her disappearance especially chilling. Suspects and theories. Over the years, investigators have pursued several leads. In 2009, a Southbridge man named Rodney Stanger emerged as a suspect. He owned a white car similar to the one seen at the pond and was known to fish and hunt in the same woods where Molly's body was later found. He also matched the general description of the man Molly's mother had seen. Stanger was later convicted of murdering his girlfriend in Florida. But he denied involvement in Molly's case, and he was never charged. In 2021, authorities identified another person of interest, Frank Sumner, a local auto repairman and registered sex offender. Sumner had a violent criminal history, including rape and kidnapping. And he fit the description of the white car driver seen near Comins Pond. Sumner died in 2016, which complicated the investigation. Other suspects have also surfaced, including convicted rapist Gerald Buddy Stoney, but no one has been arrested. Current status. As of 2025, the case remains open. Police continue to re-examine physical evidence using modern forensic techniques, and the Bish family maintains a public tip line. Worcester County District Attorney Joseph Early has said that the new evidence pointing to Frank Sumner is persuasive and credible. But without him alive to question, and with no one else charged, the central questions remain unanswered. Who abducted Molly Bish, and why? Was it a transient serial predator like Stanger? Or a hidden local offender like Sumner? Only hard facts, and new witnesses, can solve this case. Number 2. The Lady of the Dunes, 1974. On July 26, 1974, a 12-year-old girl walking her dog made a horrifying discovery in the sand dunes of Race Point Beach, in Provincetown, Massachusetts. The body of an adult woman, later dubbed the Lady of the Dunes, was found lying naked on a beach blanket in tall grass. Her body was horrifically mutilated. Her skull had been crushed, and both hands and one forearm were surgically removed, likely to prevent identification. The cause of death was a massive blow to the head. For decades, this remained one of New England's most haunting cold cases. Discovery and investigation. Authorities estimated that the woman had been dead for weeks before she was found. Despite releasing sketches and conducting multiple forensic efforts, including exhumations and facial reconstructions, police were unable to identify her. She became known only as the Lady of the Dunes. The case inspired countless theories, ranging from a sadistic attack to potential mob ties. At the time, Provincetown was a quiet coastal town that attracted artists, drifters, and hippies. Some speculated about links to local communes, but police never confirmed any connection. New breakthroughs. Nearly 50 years later, in 2022, investigators finally cracked the case using advanced DNA methods. On October 31, the FBI announced that the victim had been identified as Ruth Marie Terry, a 37-year-old woman from Tennessee. They used DNA phenotyping and genealogical databases to confirm the match, just in time for the 50th anniversary of her death. Suspect identified. Once Ruth was identified, investigators looked into her personal life. In early 1974, just months before her death, Ruth had married Guy Rockwell Moldavin, an antiques dealer. In August 2023, prosecutors publicly concluded that Moldavin was her killer. He had a disturbing background. In the 1960s, Moldavin was already a suspect in the deaths of another wife and stepdaughter in Seattle. He was the last known person to see Ruth alive. After she disappeared, Moldavin traveled alone to Tennessee, her home state, and told her family she had vanished. He later returned to Boston and told others she had died, but never gave a credible explanation. Moldavin died in 2002, so he was never charged. Still, authorities said the evidence determined he was responsible for Ruth's murder. Remaining questions. Even with the killer identified, many questions remain, especially why he did it. Prosecutors have not shared much about the motive or the forensic details that tied Moldavin to the crime. The brutality, removal of hands and a crushed skull, led some to speculate about ties to organized crime, but there's no confirmed link. There were even rumors that Boston mobster Whitey Bulger was once seen with a woman resembling Ruth in Provincetown, but this remains folklore, not fact. Today, the Lady of the Dunes case is considered solved, but not closed. We now know her name, and we know her killer. But the biggest mystery remains. Why did he do it? Until more is revealed, only Moldavin knew the answer, and he took it to the grave. Number 3. The Bridgewater Triangle Disappearances, Southeastern MA. The Bridgewater Triangle spans roughly 200 square miles of southeastern Massachusetts, centered on Abington, Rehoboth, and Freetown. It's famous in folklore for UFOs, ghosts, Bigfoot-like creatures, giant snakes, and thunderbirds. Cryptozoologists first dubbed it the Triangle in the 1970s after an unusually high number of unexplained events. Legend even claims a Native American curse haunts these forests and swamps, tied to a lost Wampanoag wampum belt from King Philip's War. But there's nothing supernatural about the real violence that's occurred here. Take 15-year-old Mary Lou Arruda. On September 8, 1978, she vanished on her bike near Raynham. More than 2 months later, on November 11, children discovered her strangled body, tied to a tree in Freetown State Forest. Authorities ultimately convicted James Cater of her kidnapping and murder, though he later fought the verdict. Documented crime. In 1978, Mary Lou disappeared while riding her bicycle. On November 11, her body was found, bound to a tree in the forest. Her case is solved, but it stands as a grim reminder of the Triangle's real dangers. Reported vanishings. Over the decades, dozens more have disappeared in this region, with no trace. Hikers and children have vanished in or near Hockomock Swamp and its surrounding woods. As Atlas Obscura notes, people have gone missing throughout the swamp, and both homicide and suicide victims often turn up there. Folklore versus facts. Locals whisper of satanic cults and Pukwudgie, little people, in the swamps. Yet investigators point out a far more mundane, and deadly, history: gangland executions, cult murders, and violent crimes dating back to the 1970s and 80s in Freetown State Forest. Some insist on native curses to explain this eerie vortex of disappearance. Others point to human predators exploiting the triangle's remote terrain. CBS Boston recently reported on cult murders and violent crimes here. The truth likely lies somewhere between a dark history of war, logging camps, and isolation that fuels supernatural lore, while reminding us that human evil roams these woods, too. Number 4. The Salem Witch Murders, 1692. In early 1692, colonial Salem, today's Danvers and Salem, erupted in a frenzy of witchcraft accusations. Over 200 people, men, women, even children, were accused of consorting with the devil. 20 were executed, 19 hanged, and one man, Giles Corey, pressed to death under heavy stones for refusing to plead. Historical records show Corey endured 4 days of torture, peine forte et dure, crushing him bit by bit as he defiantly cried, "More weight." His wife, Martha Corey, and other accused townsfolk were publicly hanged for alleged witchcraft during the hysteria. What sparked this atrocity? Historians agree it was mass hysteria. Fueled by fear, religious fanaticism, and simmering village rivalries. Salem's own court records and later analyses describe a climate of paranoia, screaming fits, and phantom specters haunting the accused. A modern Smithsonian review acknowledges one fringe theory blamed ergot, hallucinogenic fungus in rye bread, for the visions. Yet most scholars reject that idea, crediting instead a volatile mix of social tension, church politics, and terrified children. In other words, it wasn't moldy bread, it was human madness, an alarmist Puritan society consuming itself. Numbers: over 200 accused, 20 executed. Methods of execution: 19 hangings, 1 pressing to death. At least 5 accused also died in overcrowded, disease-ridden jails before trial. Mass hysteria versus ergot: while ergotism remains a footnote, the consensus is mass panic, the deadliest witch hunt in American history, driven by xenophobia and social strain. The dark twist: many of those executed were almost certainly innocent, tortured and killed on whispers and fear, not evidence. The Salem story warns us how rapidly fear can become lethal. Number 5. The Charles Stuart Hoax/Murder, 1989. October 1989 shook Boston with news of a brutal carjacking murder. Dr. Charles Stuart called 911 from Roxbury, claiming an unknown black gunman had shot him and his pregnant wife, Carol, at a stoplight. His wife, Carol D. Mighty Stuart, 31, died that night. Their unborn child died weeks later. Stuart, himself wounded in the abdomen, survived and instantly became a sympathetic figure. His sensational account unleashed a racially charged manhunt. Police, and a credulous media, swept through black neighborhoods in Mission Hill and Roxbury. Dozens of African American men were stopped, harassed, and even briefly detained, innocent until proven guilty in a city gripped by fear. Less than a month later, the chilling truth emerged. Stuart's own brother confessed that Charles had shot Carol for the $750,000 life insurance. Confronted with this betrayal, Charles Stuart fled Boston. On January 4, 1990, he drove onto the Tobin Bridge and deliberately jumped into the Mystic River, killing himself. Charles's lie: he blamed a fictional black assailant, stoking racial panic, omitting that his wife was pregnant. Racial fallout: as The Guardian later observed, police and media wanted to believe in a black gunman, terrorizing the city's black community until the hoax was uncovered. Aftermath: the case laid bare Boston's racial tensions. Stuart's deception preyed on historic mistrust and left lasting scars on the community. Sources: all details are drawn from verified historical records, media archives, court documents, and official investigations into the Bridgewater Triangle, the Salem witch trials, and the Charles Stuart case. If these cases gave you chills, hit that like button and subscribe for more. Massachusetts holds many more dark secrets, and this was only part 1. In part 2, we'll uncover 5 more chilling and eerie true crime cases that have haunted the state for decades, some solved, some still shrouded in mystery. Turn on notifications so you don't miss the next installment of Massachusetts Nightmares. Drop a comment and let us know, which case creeped you out the most, or which case do you want to see us discuss the most. See you in part 2, if you dare.